So perception and reality. Is perception the same as reality? So what is perception, firstly? Perception is the way in which something is interpreted. So now bear in mind that word interpreted. So I'll be using illusions throughout this TED Talk to demonstrate my view of perception. Firstly, what does illusions actually do? They allow our mind and our brain to create this alternate reality in which we have a simple focus and we forget the 90% of the information. We focus on the small information and we blur out the rest. So here, this is the first illusion, right? This is just to identify that there are about two different types of people, or at least two different types of people in the world. So some of you might see the face going towards you, and some of you might see the face going towards your right, to my left, basically. And that's just a way to identify that there are different types of people and we have different perspectives. Here's a second illusion, you'll see. So this is actually my favorite illusion. I love this illusion when I use it and I am using it to demonstrate perception. So as you can see, there's a clear contrast in the darker and the lighter areas. You can see the top part is darker with the background, and the bottom part is lighter, black and white. And you can see that the chess pieces, the variation in the highlights of the colors and the tone is actually different. And what our brain does is it lets us be fooled really easily. And now you're wondering, what am I talking about here? Here's a second picture. I just took out the background by editing it, and I realized that the chess pieces are exactly the same in terms of color and in terms of highlight. When you saw it being different when there was a black and white, now it's the exact same. So what it does is it creates this alternate reality. It helps simplify problems, but it doesn't help us evaluate problems. And this leads to problems in our society. And this background, it distorts our view, or in my case, our belief in life. And this is a common barrier, and this is a problem in society right now. So moving on. So my third example is about blind men, right? So blind men, they can't see, so they attach a certain feeling of touch or a certain just feeling to an object to view their reality in a way. So in this case, it could be about how they feel this dog and they feel the fur and they realize it's this type of breed. Or they go towards a husky and they feel the cuffs and they know it's a husky. Right? That's one type of blind people. Then the other part of the blind people is that when they enter their house, they know that 10 steps to the right is where their fridge is, and 10 steps to the left is where their sofa is. So what are they doing here? Even though they can't actually imagine because they can't see, they've created this alternate reality, their actual reality, but it's an alternate reality. And they use that as a simplistic model to follow life. And why? Because they just do. That's the only way they can do it. Our brain, we can see right. Our brain does the exact same. Even though we have the opportunity to see everything in detail and realize how beautiful life is. Because our brain is lazy. It just wants a simple version. And it's not any of your fault. It's no one's fault. It just happens. The fault is that you don't realize it. So what does perception do? It actually breaks our intuition. It creates this barrier in society, and we have to overcome it. See, two people looking at the same thing don't see the exact same thing. Because our brain, it focuses on a very, very tiny subset. It's the size of the width of our thumb. It's like a phone camera. When you have the camera in your hand and you press it and you click on the screen to focus, you blur the rest. That's basically what our brain does. And it just happens. There's no control over it. The control is an aftermath where you have to just realize it. So, like I said, two people looking at the same thing don't see the exact same thing. They take in different information. So first example, if I go along with my friend to Burger King right across there, what I might see is just the bread and the patty itself, but what my friend might see is with the way the cheese is dripping, the way the lettuce is placed, or the way the mayonnaise is, right? So it's just two different views. It's just a simple model of showing how we see different things. Here, plants. If all of you came outside with me right now, I'm sure half of you, theoretically, would say the plant is green or has a specific design. The other half of you would say that would talk about how it's orientated towards the sun. Again, that's just a different view of how we view others, right? And the problem is that we think we see the same as everyone else, but actually what we perceive is not the same as everyone else. Here. This is another example. And those two examples that I talked about before were just common examples. They didn't have an effect, but this issue actually has an effect. So I'm sure a few of you people might see that a person might be begging for money. A few might see that the person's actually giving money. But do you know what I saw? I saw a global issue, poverty, an emotional issue. It really got to me, and I started feeling, what is it that we do wrong? And the fact is that we don't do anything wrong. It just happens. It's just we don't realize after it. You know, the initial effect just happens. It's your brain constantly just going on its psychological cycle. And I bet you, if I took a huge poster of this picture, put it in the middle of a street, okay, 1,000 people walk past. I bet you 10 of those people out of 1,000 would realize it demonstrates poverty. That's not bad. That's okay. But only 1 out of those 10, so 1 out of 1,000, would actually realize its poverty and go and try and help correct it. And that's where we need to build society. Society isn't built right now. We haven't even built the foundation yet. So I've talked about how perception has brought differences in our lives, right? But what I haven't mentioned is that it has brought one similarity throughout our lives, and that is our common barrier. And we must break this barrier. And the barrier is that we share the illusion that we see the same as everyone else. And we don't. And we have to realize it. We have to realize that there is a gap between perception and reality and grasp it. So what is my message throughout this TED Talk? It's simple. Be moral. Think rationally. Think with your mind. Don't think with your body. See, going back to the chess pieces that I talked about, the illusion of chess. So I said the surroundings distort what you view. That goes on with society. It goes on with how people react. They want to change because of peer pressure. They want social acceptance. Why is that? I am here to tell you that you should not change. You should hold on to your belief. The only way I want you guys to change is if you go and research beyond and find enough valid evidence to satisfy your own needs, not your friends' needs. Going back to the example of blind men. See, blind people, they can't see. But we have the opportunity to view reality and see how beautiful life is. So why don't we use that opportunity? Why are we wasting it? Why are we not efficient? Why don't we get to know the whole part of a situation, the whole story behind something? See, I've seen straight-A students getting judged just because they got a C or even a B in a test. And the same goes for people that might be C students and they get an A. Instantly they say, how did you get a C? I can't be friends with you. I'm never going to ask you a question about another exam. I can't trust you anymore. Or for the C student, they go, how did you get an A? You cheated. There's no way. What gives you the right to judge others? What makes you think that you're above and beyond everyone, that you're going to go around and tell them that you can't get that, and you tell others to not listen to them anymore? See, and now this revolves around our world, right? And it's a common problem in society, and we have to realize it. And we have to realize that perception is not the same as reality, and we have to mind this gap and explore it. And we have to test our knowledge. Now, I've talked mainly about the visual system, but this is just a metaphor going for our thinking system, our memory system, how we reason with one another, how we communicate with another. And we have to test our knowledge and view reality as it is. So I've used illusions as a metaphor to help me view perception and how it's created a problem. But what you guys can do is find your own common thing to use. So in the beginning, I said to bear in mind the word interpret, because I said that perception is the way in which something is interpreted. Now, interpretation is just another word for opinion, and that is a clear definition for perception as well. Perception is our own opinion. So why do we think that perception is the same as reality? Because it's not. It's completely different. It will only be equated to reality when we realize it and we help correct it. So to end off my speech, I would just like to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Thank you.